When you owe the IRS money, the first thing you need to do is to determine if you have a correct balance. If you don't know whether or not your balance is correct, you should watch the audit or examination portions of this site. Assuming you have a correct balance, there are 6 ways to resolve an IRS tax case. There's not 7, there's not 5, there are 6. The first is through a payment plan or installment agreement. Now, we're going to go through in detail how those work in another video on this site, as it's too big to cover as part of this video. The second is offers and compromise. There's probably more misinformation on the internet about offers and compromise than anything else in tax law. And again, we're going to go through them in very great detail on another video on this site. But basically, an offer and compromise is a flat fee offer, so the IRS will take a one-time payment that is less than you owe. There are 3 types. The first is ability to pay, the second is doubt as to liability, and the third is interest of justice. You can offer all 3 at once, and you make an argument as to why the IRS should take the amount that you're offering. The third type is CNC status. CNC stands for currently not collectible status. If your assets are less than 20% of your tax debt, you qualify for CNC status. CNC status turns your debt non-collectible, and prescription, meaning the IRS's 10-year limit to collect it, keeps running. Now, technically, the IRS is supposed to check back exactly 1 year from putting you in CNC status to see if you've become collectible in the last 12 months. But in my career, I've put hundreds of people in CNC status, and I've had the IRS come back to check on exactly 1 person. Number 4 is bankruptcy. You can discharge taxes in a Chapter 7. It's a myth that you can't. The only rule is that the taxes have to be more than 2 years old. Unfortunately, you cannot discharge taxes in a Chapter 13 or a Chapter 11, but you can pay them over time, usually in a much more favorable payment plan than the IRS would give you without bankruptcy. Further, going into bankruptcy is proof that you're currently not collectible in a whole lot of corporate cases. Number 5 is an 843 penalty waiver. If you have reasonable cause for not paying your taxes, then the IRS will waive your penalties upon demonstration that you have that reasonable cause. This can sometimes reduce your taxes by as much as 40%. The reason why it's so dramatic is when you make payments to the IRS, they put those payments into penalty. If your penalties are subsequently waived, that money is applied retroactively to your balance due. Usually, this is done when a taxpayer is sick or ill or on deployment from the Armed Forces Reserve. Finally, the last option is to full pay the tax in exchange for a waiver of the penalty. You can go to the IRS and make a deal that you'll pay the tax in full as long as they waive the interest and the penalties that accompany that tax. Those are the 6 ways to end your case at the IRS. Payment plans and offers and compromise are so common and make up such a high percentage of my resolved cases that they deserve their own video. But anybody who tells you they have a 7th way that isn't one of these ways is lying to you. Congress has set out how the IRS must act, and the IRS has 6 options to deal with your balance.